Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. Today we will be discussing my prediction for the Senate race and yeah, let's just get into it. So currently Democrats aren't doing so well across the board. And one of the biggest instances of that is the Senate races. Now, they hold a very, very slim majority in the Senate. I mean like very on the edge and really it could go to a tie if even one of them drops out. And really, Kamala was there breaking the tie, and then now it's kind of a more of a majority, but not really. So we got a pretty clear map right now, and just looking at it, Republicans definitely have the edge. I mean, just counting off the safe states, they got Wyoming, they got North Dakota, they got both seats in Nebraska. Those are going to go safe. Missouri, that's also safe red, Tennessee, Mississippi, Indiana, and also their first flip of the night, West Virginia. It's held by Joe Manchin. He's now an independent, but he's basically a Democrat. He's retiring, and even if he was still in the race, Jim Justice would have still won. The politics have changed so much there that it's not really possible that a Democrat can win there. I mean, it was even a miracle that Joe Manchin was able to win in 2018, and that was a blue wave year. And given the fact that this is also a presidential year, yeah, it's not looking too good. Republicans, they're going to flip it either way. It's going to go by a typical West Virginia margin of like 30 points, maybe 20 if they're really lucky, but still safe. And we got the likely states for Republicans. Texas, Ted Cruz, his last election was very close, and that's why people have been a lot more skeptical about it. But he's not going up against a strong opponent like Beto O'Rourke was. Ted Cruz, he's also kind of putting more effort into the race, and his favorability is a lot higher than it was in 2018. So it's probably going to go by a pretty similar margin. Maybe less than the presidential margin, which is going to be above 10, but more so around 7%, maybe 8%. But still, Colin Allred, not exactly a strong candidate, not a Beto O'Rourke by any stretch of the imagination. It was a practical miracle that people got that out. It was a practical miracle that Democrats got it within 2 points, but that's not really going to happen again. So Texas is going to be a likely state. And then Florida also, it's going to be likely. Again, this is another candidate whose most recent election was very, very close. Really, the only thing carrying him across the line is going to be the fact that Florida has shifted so much to the right that it kind of can just carry him across the finish goal with a very comfortable lead. Really, Florida, not exactly the best state for Democrats. And really, it's going to be a safe Senate race after this one. Really, it's only the fact that they've held on to it by just the slimmest hair, and really, it's more so to do with the candidate than Florida's actual status as a red or blue state, or even a purple state. And because Florida has moved so far to the right, it's kind of gone for Democrats to ever flip the Senate seat there, but it's going to go in the likely column. Now, going on to the Democrat side, we got California, we got Washington, Minnesota. Now, Minnesota, for some reason, the Senate seat and Amy Klobuchar, vast overperformers. She was winning by like 60 points. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be more low 50s for her, and it's definitely going to be a lot closer, but since she overperforms so vast, it's still going to be safe. Best case scenario, they get it within the likely margin, and she has a tougher time winning the seat. But since she's a massive overperformer, it's probably going to go safe. And then you got your other usual ones: Maine, that's not going to be close. Vermont, Massachusetts, basically all of New England outside of New Jersey. We'll get to that. And then you got that. Pretty much all those states, it's not exactly a close race there. New York could be closer considering how last time Lee Zeldin got it within 7 to 6 points, which that was a major shock, but I don't think really any candidate is going to match Lee Zeldin. If Trump gets it very, very close in New York, then potentially they could have a much closer race, but just for the sake of it, I'm just going to keep it a safe. And then Hawaii also, there's really no discussion there. Hawaii is a deep blue state, probably one of the most Democrat friendly states in America. There's not really much discussion there. Outside of the wildfires that Biden mismanaged, that might move Hawaii to the right a little bit, but it's not going to be enough to displace the massive margins it's giving to Democrats. Oh yeah, I forgot Utah. That's an also a safe one. They have a really weird thing with candidates where they always vote for the more squishy neocon types like Mitt Romney, and they got another candidate like that. So really all chances that Republicans have to make it not a safe state, even though it is one of the most Republican states out there, it's not going to be even close by say 30 points. It's going to be more like a 40-point lead. It's going to be a West Virginia lead. And now we have one more likely state to put on the map, New Jersey. Now, this is mainly because New Jersey, it's a pretty competitive race there because not only New Jersey itself is going to be competitive more so in the presidential election, it's probably going to be closer there, but also you got three candidates running and two of them are Democrats. That's going to give the Republicans a better shot at winning. It's kind of going to be the most likely there, but still, Democrats are probably going to maintain control, even despite the spoiler running there, who is also the incumbent. And then New Mexico. New Mexico, I'm actually going to put it in lean because the Republicans are actually running a pretty decent candidate there. And considering the down ballot effects of the presidential race, they're it's going to be a lot more competitive, and specifically with that Senate seat in New Mexico, the candidates that the Democrats put up, they always get within about 6 or 7 points. Last time it was about 6 points that the Senate seat was that close to flipping, and considering that and also the down ballot effects, it's going to be more of a lean state. Now, the Republicans have quite a few lean states, and mainly that's going to be Ohio and then Montana. Montana is definitely going to be more Republican friendly than Ohio because Montana votes 20 points to Trump, and then Ohio usually votes around 8 to 10. Now, these are both red states, and essentially, these are going to be the states that Democrats need to desperately hold on to if they want any shot at even making it a tie. Because really, the only way that they can hold the Senate is if they hold all their seats outside of West Virginia. They're not going to try and even hold that because it's too far gone. And then they're going to try and win the presidency so they have that tiebreaker vote with the vice president. But they're looking too good. I mean, it's a presidential year. Despite both of these guys in currently holding the seats being vast overperformers from the president, it's still going to be a pretty hard shot at them winning. Definitely, Ohio is definitely more likely to remain in the Democrat column, but still, it's going to be a red state voting 10 points, and then Montana is going to be voting 20 points for Trump. So you can't really outperform that much. I mean, maybe a couple points, but if you're outperforming a 20-point lead with a Democrat plus one even, that that just doesn't make any sense. You can't really outperform that much against the president. That's pretty much unheard of outside of a few House districts in California, but still, it's going to be a pretty tough shot for Democrats to actually retain these two seats. And really, these are Republicans' best chance of getting the Senate. And this is probably their worst case scenario is that they flip West Virginia, Ohio, and Montana, and then don't flip any of the other swing states. But still, they get a pretty decent lead. And this would be more of a men night because I think Republicans are expecting a lot more out of the Senate, but you still win the Senate, so I guess you can celebrate about that. Now we got the other swing states. So, Virginia, it's definitely going to be a lot closer. I mean, in terms of the presidential race, Trump is definitely going to outrun whatever candidate is for the Republicans, which currently they got a pretty strong candidate there, and he might outrun Trump, but that's kind of debatable because Tim Kaine, he's relatively more popular than Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. And Tim Kaine, he's a pretty strong candidate there. I mean, not exactly like Amy Klobuchar levels, but still, he can run a pretty good race in what is a lean Democrat state and might soon be a toss up if it isn't already. But it's still going to be relatively close. And considering how the down ballot effects are going to affect the race, I think that this might actually be a fairly close election. I'm debating whether or not I should put in lean or tilt because this is going to be a close election. But eh, can he outrun Kamala by insane amounts of points? It's debatable. For now, I'm going to put in lean. It's bordering on tilt, but I think the lean is appropriate. Now, moving on to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, Democrats are going to hold this. It's not going to be by too big of a margin, but Republicans put up a complete shit candidate and really killed any chance that they were going to flip this. I mean, I don't know what is going on with Republicans in Pennsylvania Senate seats, but they seem to put up the worst candidates humanly possible. Mehmet Oz was absolutely terrible. He somehow lost to John Fetterman, which thank God he's more moderate now because he was running as a total radical. I guess the stroke really changed him, but Republicans in Pennsylvania, I mean, you're picking a pretty shit candidate and you're going to lose there. But Democrats, they're probably going to hold it. Even if Virginia flips, Democrats are still probably going to hold this. You would have to have a massive red wave year, like Trump winning over 400 electoral votes to even flip the seat. But still, it's going to be kind of close, but not really. It's going to be more like New Mexico than Virginia. But moving on, Michigan, I actually think that Republicans can manage to flip it. It's not going to be by too much, but given how well they're doing there in terms of the presidential race, and Republicans, they don't have a completely dog shit candidate, and the Democrats, they're not putting up the best candidate. I mean, definitely not an overperformer, but you still got two MAC candidates there, and given the fact that Trump is doing so well there, the down ballot effects might affect the race and push it towards the Republicans. And given the fact that Kamala, she's not going to really be able to appeal to Michigan as much if Gretchen Whitmer doesn't want to be her VP. So, given the fact that Kamala can't really push Michigan more to the left with a good VP pick or really anything, and the fact that she is not very well liked in the Midwest, I'm going to give this to Republicans. Now, Wisconsin, this is an interesting story because Republicans, they picked a pretty shit candidate, but also Trump is likely to win Michigan by over 2 points, which, if that happens, it kind of calls the race into question. Usually, if Trump was being relatively more competitive there and if Joe Biden was still in the race, Democrats would win it by a tilt margin. But given the fact that Kamala is now their nominee and she doesn't perform as well in the Midwest, and the governor of Wisconsin isn't really on the VP list and is likely not to be picked, so not going to gain favorability in Wisconsin. And Republicans have made it their number one priority to try and flip Wisconsin. And just given that fact, I mean, the Republicans don't have a solid candidate, but still, I think they might flip Wisconsin. It's not going to be by too much, but it's still relatively able to flip. Definitely a lot more than them flipping Pennsylvania or New Mexico. And moving on to Nevada, I can already say that despite the Republicans putting up a pretty shit candidate, he's not as shit as the rest of them, but he's still running a pretty bad campaign. But given the fact that Trump is massively overperforming in Nevada, this still is not going to be too close because if Trump overperforms the way that the polling is looking like he is, then he could probably carry the Republicans over to win the Senate seat. If it wasn't for that, then the Democrats would probably still maintain control. Republicans have been doing a lot better in Nevada, and just given that and the down ballot effects, it's going to go to the Republicans. Arizona. Now, Arizona, this was a pretty contentious race, and the Republicans were definitely a lot happier when Kristen Sinema's was still in the race as an independent because she could have taken votes from Ruben Gallego, but Carrie Lake is such an awful candidate. She lost the gubernatorial race, and now she's running for the Senate, which she's not a good candidate. She is probably the worst candidate that the Republicans have put up outside of maybe their candidate in Utah, but it's a safe Republican state, so you don't really need to put up the best candidate. Arizona, however, I mean, it's a lot more competitive. It's moved to the left so much, and if Trump overperforms there, like the polling is looking like it's going to do, then maybe he carries Carrie Lake over, but also since Carrie Lake is such a shit candidate and can't really run an effective campaign, I'm just gonna give this to the Democrats right now because yeah, it's gonna be close, but Carrie Lake is just such a terrible candidate. If this was the old Arizona where Republicans were winning it by 8 points, Carrie Lake could probably win. But now I mean, you really need a more effective candidate. And Arizona, along with Utah, they have the weird tendency to pick really bad Republican candidates. But Arizona, it kind of makes a lot more sense because it's a more moderate state, so you want to put up more moderate Republicans. Utah, on the other hand, it's a safe Republican state. Why are you putting up all these neocons? Arizona is going to go into the Democrat column. So that is it. 55 seats to 45 seats. Pretty solid result. I mean, it's not a complete blowout, but considering how Democrats had control of the Senate and then now they're down 10 seats, that's kind of a bad sign. And given the fact that this is the prediction for the Senate, the presidential race, if these match at all, then Kamala Harris is doomed. And if you want to see my presidential election race prediction, then you can see that up there. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.